You know that deep physical ache you feel after a breakup? That feeling that it's more than just being sad? Well, it turns out you're not just being dramatic. Your brain is actually going through something profound. We're about to dive into the wild science of heartbreak, and we're going to see how it looks a lot, and I mean a lot, like drug withdrawal. Let's get into it. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the surprising connection between love, drugs, and your brain. Then we'll get into the weeds of the shared reward system that they both tap into. After that, we're going to put the symptoms of withdrawal side by side. It's pretty striking, but we'll also be clear about the really crucial differences. And we'll wrap it all up by asking the big question: why on earth did our brains evolve to make heartbreak hurt so much?
All right, let's just jump right in and tackle the biggest misconception from the get-go. This idea that heartbreak is just an emotional thing.
I mean, we usually think of it this way, right? Heartbreak is for talking through with your friends, maybe eating some ice cream. Drug withdrawal? Well, that's a serious, clinical, physical problem. But what if that line we draw between them is way, way blurrier than we ever thought?
And get this isn't some poetic metaphor. This is coming straight from the scientific research. Scientists have found that romantic attachment hits all the same notes as addiction: the euphoria, the craving, the dependence, and, yes, withdrawal. This one idea is really the key to understanding everything else we're about to talk about.
Okay, so why? Why does this crazy similarity even exist? To figure that out, we have to look under the hood at the brain's fundamental wiring, specifically the machinery that's responsible for pleasure and motivation.
And this right here, this is the star of the show, the mesolimbic dopamine pathway. You can just think of it as your brain's reward circuit. It's this ancient, powerful network that basically tells you, hey, that thing you just did, that was awesome. Let's do it again. It's fundamental to our survival.
So, when you're falling in love, just seeing your partner or hearing their voice acts as this massive social reward. Your brain responds by releasing a big surge of a chemical called dopamine. That dopamine is what makes you feel amazing. It gives you that pleasure, that motivation, and it builds that deep sense of attachment. It's literally the glue that helps form a bond.
Now, here's the kicker. Illicit drugs don't invent some new pathway for pleasure. Nope. They hijack the exact same system. They just flood that reward circuit with a totally unnatural, massive amount of dopamine. The main takeaway here is incredible. Your brain is using this same hardware to process both deep love and substance addiction. So what happens when that reward, whether it's a person or a substance, is suddenly gone? Well, your brain gets used to running on those high levels of dopamine. When the source is removed, your levels don't just return to normal. They crash way, way below your baseline. And that dopamine deficit is what causes the horrible feelings of withdrawal, the intense craving, the low mood, the inability to feel pleasure. Okay, so now that we get the shared mechanism, that dopamine crash, let's put the symptoms of that crash side by side. This is where the connection becomes almost impossible to ignore. Just look at this for a second. The craving, the anxiety, that constant negative mood, these aren't just kind of similar feelings. In many ways, they are the same core psychological symptoms, and they're all coming from that shared dopamine deficit we just talked about. Your brain is basically speaking the same language of loss, just with a different vocabulary. And we can drill down even deeper. Look at how breakup distress compares to withdrawal from things like opioids, alcohol, or stimulants. You see anxiety and craving pop up across the entire board. But check out the brain activity row. A breakup? Reduced dopamine. Stimulant withdrawal? A pronounced dopamine deficit. It's the same story, a story of disrupted brain chemistry, just triggered by different things. Now, this is a super important moment to pause and add some nuance. Because while these brain pathways are fascinatingly similar, we are absolutely not saying that a breakup is identical to drug withdrawal. They are very, very different experiences. Let's break down three really big differences. First, and most importantly, physiological risk. Withdrawal from substances like alcohol or opioids can be physically dangerous, even life-threatening. Heartbreak is agonizing, but it's not going to kill you in the same way. Second, one is a clinical disorder, while the other, falling in love, is a perfectly normal, healthy part of being human. And finally, romantic love serves a vital evolutionary purpose, right? It helps us pair bond and build families. So that brings us to the biggest and maybe most important question of all. Why? Why is our brain wired like this? Why would evolution design a system where losing a social bond feels so physically and emotionally awful? And it all comes down to one word: survival. For our ancestors, being in a pair or a group wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a life or death necessity. So this whole reward system evolved to make social bonding feel amazing, to motivate us to stick together. The pain of a breakup is just the other side of that coin. It's a biological alarm system screaming at you to protect and maintain those connections that keep you safe.
So what's actually going on in your brain during a breakup? It's desperately trying to recalibrate after losing a massive source of its reward. And this intense, stressful period of finding a new normal actually has a scientific name: allostasis. It's the brain's messy, difficult struggle to find stability again after a huge change.
And the result of that struggle is basically everything you feel during heartbreak. The obsessive thoughts, the craving, the stress, the pain. It's all your brain's frantic attempt to motivate you to fix the problem, to do whatever it takes to get that essential reward back online. It's a survival instinct gone into overdrive.
So, where does all this leave us? If we know that the agony of heartbreak isn't just you being emotional, but a genuine withdrawal process that's hardwired into our deepest survival circuits, how does that change the way we think about healing for ourselves and for others? Maybe it means we can treat that pain not as a weakness, but as a profound sign of a brain doing the incredibly hard work of finding its balance again.